Airport security of Reddit. What's the weirdest experience you had while scanning luggage? Elderly woman with a sword cane. She had no idea it was a sword. Her son was a service member and had sent it to her from the Philippines without mentioning what it was. A couple headed up to Alaska with a sink, complete with plumbing attached, in a large duffel bag. A hunter returning from Canada with some unlicensed kills. Unprepped and still bleeding severed muskox heads wrapped in plastic. Whole baggage system for half the airport had to be shut down and cleaned, along with a couple of our machines. One lady who spent the time her bag was in the x-ray screaming that x-rays weren't real, and there was a midget in the machine going through her bag to steal things. In cargo, an automatic grenade launcher built out of clear polycarbonate, so the arms dealer transporting it could show off its inner workings. Would have been fine if it hadn't been undeclared and accompanied by a small box of grenades. Unprepped and still bleeding severed muskox heads. What the frick? Sophie, sir. Mom, I just got a look in your bag real quick. Oh, it's just my butt plug. It has electronics inside. It's just your soap. It's too big to go. I cannot make this up. The thing I tell new people is you can never be ready for what might happen every day. I should become a Tsar officer for the wild stories. Okay, I'm not airport security, but this is in the same sport of what you're asking. When we were coming back from Afghanistan, a few of us were tasked to serve as customs type people. We had to search bags for any non-authorized items. Things like weapons, war trophies, money, things like that. Anyway, it's hot as balls and I'm on like my 10th group of folks. We're going through the whole spiel and I get to the part where I have them all turn their sleeping bags upside down and shake them out. Well, out drops this huge purple dildo from this guy's bag. It's enormous and it's rolled to a stop in the sand at my feet. I'm speechless. I know this guy. Worked like 2 seats away from him for a year. We locked in eye contact. His face is mortified. There's a dozen other soldiers all around dumping their bags. None have noticed yet. I just yell out okay, pack it up and walk away like I didn't notice. If this guy planted that to smuggle some crap out, then he earned it cause I was not gonna mess with any more of that. We never spoke of it afterward. Saw a bag filled to the brim with all different types of spoons. Pulled it aside. Asked the passenger what the deal was. He looked me straight in the face and says he uses them to spank his wife in bed. It's their sex spoons. I think they misunderstood what people meant when they said spooning. Chinese people on border security TV shows. Did you pack any food? Number. Opens luggage 40 kilos of banned food items. So true. My mom and dad does this all of the time. My dad would bring in food to Hong Kong so that his extended family could enjoy it, lol. My mom tried to smuggle in a mango from Hawaii as well as a coconut. I used to work at Sydney Airport and we once found a 14-inch double-ended dildo in the luggage of a couple from Turkey. The kicker was that both of the passengers were in their 80s. Not security but a passenger. This one time when I was 17-18 I was going through the Palm Springs airport security when my bag gets pulled aside by one of the officers after I walk through the scanner. The man pulls the bag off the belt then looks me in the eye and asks, "Is this yours?" To which I reply yes. "Is there anything inside that I should be concerned about?" Slightly confused I respond, "No sir, I don't believe so." He then opens the bag, rummages inside until he pulls out a small box and asks me, deadpan serious, "What is this?" At this point I pick up just how much this officer is on edge. He was so tense. I swear he looked ready to charge me if I were to do so much as itch my chin the wrong way. The intensity emanating off of him was palpable, and I do my very best to hold my poise as I answer him with a straight face. "That is a soap on a rope, sir." He proceeds to take the soap on a rope out of the box and I explain how my dad gave it to me as a joke gift for my birthday. Seeing his tension diffuse slightly, I ask what the problem was. Literally tells me that soap has the consistency of C4 and the hole in the top was suspicious, where rope met soap, so it was flagged as a potential bomb threat. Shortly after realizing the lack of threat and obvious misunderstanding, they let me through and I rejoined my family, soap on a rope and all. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that soap does not have the consistency of C4. In the early 90s my family and I are trying to get back to the USA from Paris. At the airport they scanned all our luggage as part of the routine. Even back then. During the process the officials got pretty excited, upset, surprised. We didn't speak much French and they spoke little English, but a number of them crowded around the monitor for one suitcase. They finally brought me over to the screen and pointed to an image on the x-ray. At the bottom of my wife's suitcase it appeared to be an outline of a pistol. As it turned out, it was my wife's curling iron with power cord rolled up just right. But I couldn't make them understand what I was trying to tell them. So I just pretended to curl my hair like I've seen my wife do with the thing. They started laughing and were so relieved it was nothing, so we were on our way quickly after that. Back when flying was actually fun. I'm not airport security, but one time I was in the security line with my parents and little sister and we got stopped because they found something in her bag. The person at the scanner opens my little sister's backpack and pulls out a freaking rock the size of a grapefruit. He just looks at us and goes, "What's this?" and my little sister goes, "That's my pet rock." He put it back in the bag and told us we were good. She took her pet rock on the plane. My parents were totally mortified. You know, that is a lot more of a weapon than nail clippers. Not airport security, but the one time on a local flight everyone in the line had to wait at bag check because a man was trying to bring a large tire on his hand luggage. It didn't fit in the scanning machine, but they wouldn't let him take it through the detector either. The stubbornness stalemate eventually died off, but needless to say everyone was very upset. Sounds like a tiring situation. I'm not airport security, but I do have an interesting story. So I'm checking through airport security. In front of me was a woman in her 40s. I assume. I only have my laptop as carry-on, so I grab 2 trays. One for my laptop, the other for my shoes, wallet, phone, act. As I'm waiting for this lady to put her stuff in trays, she drops her purse. I'm not exaggerating whatsoever. About 100 condom packets fall out of her purse and spew across the floor. There were probably a lot more inside. Being the gentleman I am, I asked the woman if she needed help and scooped up the condoms. So officers from all over were staring at her with wide eyes. Nobody said a word. Eventually we managed to get through and I never saw the woman again. I'm guessing she was either a sex educator or on her way to a conference. I once saw an elderly Chinese lady bring a pizza on a domestic US flight and they had to roll the box through the scanner, which made my awful morning a wee bit brighter. Not airport security, but when I was 7, I put my plastic dinosaur toy into the scanner in a mall. The dude thought I put my big pet lizard into the scanner and got scared. The funny thing is, the dinosaur was an Allosaurus, placed sideways. It looked nothing like a lizard through the screen, but I could see that his reaction was genuine. Big Al goes to the mall. Not security, but a passenger. This isn't that weird, but it still makes me chuckle. A few years ago I was in Amsterdam for about a month. Now, I love cheese as much as the next person, and I wanted to bring some different kinds of Gouda back to the US for myself, my friends, and my family. This was totally legal and all. I checked beforehand, but the customs agents thought it was hilarious when they opened my bag and I literally had 6 pounds of cheese, in cheese wheel form, in my suitcase. Got to keep the cheese and it was definitely worth it. I did this my 2 trips back from the Netherlands with mayonnaise. 6 jars my last trip in my carry-on. I got stopped in Denver once because they thought my underwater camera was a bomb. They all apologized and said, as you can imagine, we don't get a lot of underwater cameras in Denver. I read this as underwear camera. Flyer here, was checking in at 4 AM for a flight. Had a firearm in checked baggage. As part of standard protocol, they pulled me aside for a quick verification that it was packed in a locked hard case and swabbed my fingers. We've found traces of explosive residue, like gunpowder. Have a nice day. Not even an issue. More of a hilarious brain fart by some poor soul who's probably sleep deprived and running on autopilot, so to speak. There's a German security officer and bomb squad leader out there that can tell you the story of how I forgot I had a grenade-shaped lighter in my backpack as I went through the security checkpoint. Story please. Obligatory. I'm a passenger, not a TSA agent. When I was 8 years old we took a trip to California, and there were hundreds of snails all over the place. This fascinated me as there wasn't stuff like that in Minnesota, so I adopted 10 of them and carried them around on our trip, feeding them lettuce. Going through airport security, I watched them go through the X-ray, and you could see them moving slowly around. This freaked out the agent and they called over a few people to search my bags. My dad just sat there laughing, and they pulled out a jar of snails. They laughed as well and let me keep them. So the snails lived happily ever after in a bowl of lettuce looking out the window at the snow. This is my favorite story on here. If you couldn't fly with them, maybe they would let you ship them to yourself by snail mail. I remember once I was flying out of Melbourne when I was about 14 heading to Christchurch to meet up with my parents. So I put my bag on the tray for the X-ray machine, and the border force guy puts it through. I go through the metal detector and wait for my bag to come out. Then the other border force guy who's looking at the X-ray screen calls one of his colleagues over, points at the screen, looks at me, laughs and pulls my bag aside and calls me over. I go up to him, and he looks me straight in the eye and says we don't allow screwdrivers on the plane. I'm pretty dang confused at that point, until he unzips the front pocket and pulls out my goddamn 12th Dr. Sonic screwdriver. Both him and the other guy are just pee themselves laughing. So then he asked where I got it and how much it cost cause he wanted to get his son one for his birthday. He then handed my bag back and told me not to disassemble the plane while I'm up there. I just want to know why, when working construction on airports, I have to go through the metal detector and have my hard hat safety vest boots scanned, but our big job boxes get to sail on past without even a gander on what's inside. I'm a traveling forensic structural engineer and once got in some hot water about a plumb bob I packed. SAR agent was like, this could be used as a projectile. Not security here, but I used to work as a baggage handler, now loading supervisor, and whenever we felt a vibration from a bag we had to get it inspected as it is a potential heat source and could start to fire. We cannot open it without security and the owner with us. Local regulation, so it was always a hassle. But we always got big grins and everything when we felt it. 9/10 times it was just a body groomer or something like that. Learned that vibrating dildos come in many different shapes and sizes thanks to that rare 1/10. I'm a baggage handler and we are allowed to just do it ourselves if we feel vibrating. Maybe we aren't. I work in Canada, but it does save a lot of frickin' time to just deal with it myself. You never know when you're gonna find a bag full of rotating dildos. I live where there is no Trader Joe's, so when I do visit friends out of state, I bring an extra suitcase and load up. My bag was flagged for inspection after going through the X-ray, so I'm standing there and that SAR officer takes out my JoJo's cookies, swabs the packaging, checks that it isn't C, and shouts back to the X-ray guy, "Hey, Eric, it was the JoJo's." I always bring a checked bag full of Trader Joe's back with me to Japan. I get that SAR slip that my luggage has been searched every time. Not a screener myself, but I huck bags for an airline. One day I threw a couple of bags on the screener and neglected to let the CATSA, Canadian version of TSAR, agent know that they had firearms and ammunition in them. I can only imagine the reaction of him crapping his pants when he had been sitting there all day, bored out of his mind, screening bag after bag, to suddenly see the giant outline of a shotgun in front of his face on his screen. He nearly broke the door down of his little hut getting out to grab the bag and looked at me like, is there a declared firearm in this bag? To which I responded, yeah, should have mentioned that. I was on an Air Force Honor Guard. Not my story, but my buddies. We were going to be at a local airport, receiving the body of a kid who died. I don't know why we didn't just use the airstrip at the base, but whatever. When a body is received, the plane will land. Our pallbearers will march out with a full color guard and retrieve the body off the plane for transport to the funeral home. Part of this includes rifles. So, everyone got to the airport at around 8 p.m. They walk right up to security and explain that they are going to be needing to go onto the flight line, and that they have rifles and a knife to cut the plastic wrap off the casket. The poor kid at SAR freaks out and calls his manager over. Apparently he heard we're going onto your flight line and we have rifles and not that we're the honor guard from AFB and we're here to escort an airman's body. Manager comes bounding over, and once he realizes what's going on, he starts cracking up and explains the situation to the poor kid. Apologies were exchanged, and the body was retrieved successfully. The funeral sucked though. I was on that one and it was heavy. I really felt for the parents. Just wanted to say thank you for working those types of details assignments. I can't imagine the emotional toll it takes, but I'm glad you and the honor guard are there to support the family through it. I went through security once and they pulled my laptop bag and were looking through it quite intently. Turns out I had forgotten I had kept a drafting compass in there. You know the scissor-like tool that has pencil holder on one end and a sharp metal point on the other, used for drawing circles. That's right, I said a sharp metal point. They looked at it and I was expecting them to confiscate it, but they just put it back and cleared me to fly. I'm thinking to myself, wow, you could probably stab someone in the carotid. To be fair, there's plenty of sharp things on the plane if someone really wanted to stab someone in the throat. Not airport security, but when I was 8 I packed about 5 different toy guns in my suitcase because I asked my dad if we could play guns as we called it, and he said we can later, so I figured he meant abroad. I gave everyone quite a scare mayo. We were held up for an hour or two. The fact you were held up for 2 hours is insane. Plastic is dang different from metal. Obligatory not airport security. I was going to an interview and decided to pack some fancy bath stuff for the hotel just for fun. As it turns out, a bar of soap packed next to phone chargers looks a lot like an explosive device on the X-ray. Not a huge deal and apparently pretty common, but they had to search the bag anyway. No problem. Until the security lady pulls out a Lush bag. What's this? It's a bath fizzer. A bath fizzer. She stared at me for a few seconds before it seemed to click what I was referring to. She finished the search and handed my bag back, bath bomb and all. I take bath bombs with me when I visit my parents sometimes, cause they have a really nice tub, and I usually only travel with a carry-on. So every time I go through security I get paranoid that I'll say the wrong thing if they ask me about it. Obligatory not airport security, but I was in the Pittsburgh airport security area and watched an entire family dressed in custom Islamic Muslim clothing. Sorry if this is not the proper phrasing. Get pulled aside for additional screening. Thought they were just getting profiled until a TSA officer asked them to open a large carry-on bag they had. It was literally filled with bottles of mayo. Absolutely nothing else but mayo in a pretty big bag. No clue what happened after that, but they probably dumped it all. Not mine, but a friend of mine who worked at customs security as head chief was supervising the scanned luggage. Suddenly a guitar belonging to an old lady, probably mid-70s according to my friend's description, comes in through the scanner and they noticed there was something inside the guitar, in the interior, but they couldn't see what it was, so he decided to make a security check once it was on the other end of the scanner. And so he did, but when he asked her to open up the guitar, my friend noticed this but didn't say much because he wanted to keep things as calm as possible, so he proceeded to open up the case. He then removed the strings and finally introduced his hand through the hole and almost instantly felt something in there. Turns out the lady just couldn't find the proper place to put her dildo, so she hid it in the guitar. When my friend realized this, he struggled to hold his laughter and said something along the lines of, "Miss, the next time you bring your radio with you, make sure to remove the batteries before the flight." We're going to get another comment on here from an old lady describing how a customs guard grabbed her dildo hidden in her guitar and mistook it for a radio now. I've got one being the passenger and not airport security. My dad, sister and I used to travel a lot. I was probably 7. My second time ever being on a plane. We are in security, send our carry-on bags through, only to be reminded by TSA that I had a little manicure set in my bag with nail clippers, a file, etc. They reminded me by pulling me out of line, searching me in front of everyone while I'm crying confused as crap. I was mortified to say the least. Yup, I got searched for a fruit lip balm that one of the dogs picked up when I was 12. Searched in front of everyone. Mortified and very upset. Last summer my family and I flew to Singapore. I got my dad a dab cartridge, THC concentrate, the week prior. He brought it attached to the battery through Singapore customs. They pulled him aside and said, "Do you have a vape?" and he said yes, and they didn't bother to check exactly what it was. Smuggling marijuana into Singapore and punishable by death. When I heard the man ask my dad, my heart stopped. Not security, but I was quite upset about this. My brother always has a pocket knife on him. He just keeps it around because he gets the multi-tool ones with fingernail clippers, screwdrivers, and whatever else. Several times he has forgotten about them and had to throw them away before airport security. This one was a particularly thin-walled multi-tool and he forgot to take it out this time, so the security person just asks him if it's okay to throw it out and he moves on. End of story. Well, I go through security immediately after and I'm super prepared. Not a thing is out of place. The metal detector that you walk through goes off, so she pulls me to the side. Apparently the sweater I was wearing had a type of yarn that had the gold threads and the machines hate that. It looked like I was wearing chainmail under my shirt. 2 pat downs later and having them check my shoes, luggage, etc, and I'm good to go. Still mad to this day that my brother went right through security with a knife and I spent 30 minutes there because of my terrible choice in clothing. 2 weirdest off the top of my head. I pull up the image of the bag and I see it full of dildos, butt plugs, and a necklace that I can tell says S. Apparently got pulled for a liquid container. Before I even open the bag, the passenger says, "Don't worry, I'm not a prostitute, just a S who likes to be prepared." Me. Huh? Me. Your lube is over 3.4 ounces so it can't go. Huh. No problem. I can improvise later. Then she grabbed her bag and walked off like nothing happened. The other one involved a female co-worker and a bag containing 2 glass dildos belonging to a middle-aged married couple. Husband: "Oh, please don't say we can't take those. She loves when I use one in each of her holes at the same time." Double quote. Wife while handing my female co-worker a business card: "Yes dearie, and if we get to keep them I'll give you a free demonstration when we get back." I could barely contain my laughter as my co-worker tried to keep her composure. After 3 years I have tons of stories. For some reason the rubber foot fleshlight I got in checked baggage always stuck with me, as in a rubber foot with a hole for the dong where the ankle should be, and the full-fledged furry suit in a case alongside cans of Alpo dog food. Apparently, they call those vagankles. I only know this because I have weird friends, not because I'm into that sort of thing. I'm a girl. Not me, but my brother, as a passenger, found out the hard way that summer sausage and pepperoni sticks packed in the bottom of a carry-on look like plastic explosives to the X-ray machines at the airport. I carried several full kangaroo hides through LAX this year. Sa asked what's in the roll dead kangaroo. I replied, "Go on through." Why? This happened within my first month of work. I had been done with my initial training and was sent out when the scanner read something that looked suspicious in someone's bag. When I took the bag aside and searched the suspicious item, it turned out to be a Toblerone bar. But just to be sure, I opened it up and inside the box was 3 ounces of cracksy and a lighter. The guy booked it out of the airport, leaving all of his luggage behind. Not security, but when we went on our honeymoon 6 years after marrying to Italy, my husband went through the body scanner and set it off. He took off his belt and went through again and it went off. He took off his watch and went through again and it went off. At this point, 3 policemen with guns turned up. I was terrified. Turned out to be his lucky, fake, coin in his body warmer. Yes, it was the 80s, which he never thought to remove. Lucky yet, right? I was the traveler in this scenario, flying the UK to play some gigs with my violin. My violin is a typical acoustic instrument, with the addition of an LR Baggs pickup bridge. It looks kind of funky with the wires coming out of bridge and going to the 1/4 jack. Hooroo boy, did security freak the frick out over that one. Put the case through the X-ray machine, and was walked over to her room as soon as I identified it as mine. It was opened and the 3 idiots were staring at it like it was a nuclear bomb. They wouldn't touch it. They questioned me. They screamed at me that I was lying and they wanted me to tell them what I was planning. I showed them my travel plans and my bookings in London and they huddled for a moment and then they made me play my violin. I think they were expecting an actual explosion. I just made their faces melt with my awesome fiddle style. They apologized profusely and let me get onto my gate. I had 2 minutes to spare. TSA is a pack of freaking buttholes. TSA equals thousands standing around, and it shows. They don't know what a freaking violin is. You should have started playing and when they calm down just yell boom while making that ugly screeching sound on the violin. they'd crap their pants. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.